So dudes, let's talk about hybrid gaming a little bit. My favorite. I have fallen in love with hybrid gaming since 2017. When the introduction of the Switch came out, I was like, this is the coolest thing that's ever existed. I've always been a handheld gamer. And so the thought of being able to blend the two together, handheld and at-home console, was very, very exciting for me. And so I found myself running to the idea of the Switch. Also being a huge Nintendo fan in general, that was something that I genuinely enjoyed. So hybrid started to become the center of my gaming experience. Well, now there are plenty of ways to enjoy hybrid gaming, and I actually moderately participate in all of them, but majorly participate in 2 of them. So I'm gonna go over the options that someone might have for hybrid gaming today in 2025, as well as what I use, if that sounds good with you. All while making a delicious, yummy AeroPress, which I have fallen in love with all over again. I love AeroPress. It's such a simple way to drink coffee. We're gonna go with this is my special yummy blend. Notice the change in the room. I went back to when the cups originally started. I stripped my office down to almost nothing in here because it's getting cluttered, and I think that everything comes in seasons, and it's time for me to kind of get rid of some of that clutter. Also, big life changes are happening in our household, and so making changes to coincide with those, I think, is nice and important. But I do like this little mobile coffee setup, and so this is going to be fun. But first, let's start with the least of all of them. The one I use the least, which is the PlayStation Portal. Now, currently right now, I do have a PlayStation 5 Pro, additionally with a PlayStation Portal. This is something that I was able to get relatively inexpensive. I ended up trading my PlayStation 5 launch day disc edition along with a watch I was not using that I had purchased years ago to cover the cost of a PlayStation 5 Pro and a PlayStation Portal. So the PlayStation Portal I have right here, I have the black one because I enjoy a more blacked out situation. So I have the black one, and I use this the least often, but I still use it. And the reason why I got it was simple. I wanted to be able to have a hybrid gaming experience with my PlayStation. Now, some people would say, well, you have a Steam Deck, why don't you use something called Chiaki for Deck, right? Chiaki for Deck, Chiaki, I believe is how you spell it, and it allows you to basically run your Steam Deck like a PlayStation Portal. And that's really, really cool for someone who is wanting to save a few bucks on the PS Portal and not get it, and also for someone who is okay with some of the things that you have to do and permissions you have to grant this service Chiaki or whatever it is to get access to your PlayStation account, PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro. I personally was like, you know what? There's a reason why I like the PlayStation 5, and there's a reason why I use the PlayStation 5, and that is for one very, very specific thing. That is the DualSense controller. I believe the DualSense controller is one of the most, if not the most immersive controllers out there. And so having the DualSense controller on this is great, and some of the different updates that they did to this made the PlayStation Portal much more valuable to me as someone who uses a PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, you guys have seen the video, I'm assuming, called 2 Not 3. Pick 2 items, use those 2 items, don't use 3 because decision fatigue and all that stuff. And I do subscribe to the 2 Not 3 theory. And so you're going to see 4 different things, but I actually only invest in 2 of them. I have a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I don't really increase the library on there, but I have games that I've purchased that I want to play, and I was able to do this upgrade through trading technology, something that my dad and I have been doing since the early 2000s. He'd go to buy a new iPhone, he'd sell off his old iPhone, a couple other pieces and little trinkets in the house he'd acquired over the year, pay for the new iPhone, and continue to go on from there. That's kind of the way that I do a lot of stuff with this tech, is just how can I flip what I have, sell it off. That's why you see a lot of buy and resell, is because I'm able to do that with a couple other trinkets over the course of the year and afford to upgrade some of these things because my budget is pretty razor thin when it comes to this hobby slash side hustle. And so when it comes to PlayStation, I have a bunch of games purchased. I have PlayStation Online for like 3 years or whatever. I have a bunch of that stuff that I have access to games that I could play if I want to, and the PlayStation the PlayStation Portal allows me to do it on the couch, or the PlayStation 5 Pro allows me to have the best PlayStation experience I can have because it is the #1 PlayStation and the highest performing PlayStation for games that I want to play. And so I'm able to go through the God of War series, all that stuff, and I don't have to purchase it additionally on something like the Steam Deck or the PC. Even though it's a few bucks, I already have access to the game, and access is really what's important to me, not ownership, right? A big part of my gaming hobby, I've started to transition away from this idea of ownership. It's just access, because experiences are what are important, memories or making memories are what are really important to me. And so when it comes to games, this idea of like collecting, especially after I took everything out of my office, dude, I took everything out of this office and put it on the floor of my living room. This room is like I think it's like a 10-foot by 12-foot space. It's not really a room. It wasn't supposed to be. They put a closet in here, but I could tell that this closet is just, it just wasn't the original thing. But that being said, I had so much stuff in here, started collecting stuff, that when I put it out in the living room, it completely took up our dining/living room, just all laid out on the floor. And it was nauseating. It was actually pretty sickening. I'm like, dude, I've just acquired so many things. And so I'm starting to systematically go through it and be like, okay, I'm going to give this away because I received it for free from a company, or sell this because I paid money for this, stuff like that, just to clear out all this space. And it's kind of like this summer cleaning, so to speak. And also it's helping because, you know, we're moving in a few months. And so from that itself, I was like, okay, cool. PlayStation is covered. I got my PlayStation. I'm going to go to the next thing I use the least frequently, or the next least frequently, which is going to be a handheld device that was really, really awesomely sold to me at an absurdly low price. And it's the color isn't my favorite color. I don't dislike the color at all, but the color is what it is. And so this next device I have is none other than the Analog Pocket. I do use an Analog Pocket, and the reason why I use the Analog Pocket is to play games like Pokemon Emerald that I have physical, but also the form factor of it alone is very inspiring. I think when it comes to gaming and when it comes to doing things when you're tired, since I just don't have a ton of time to play games in general, I like to have this. Also, this is my replacement for my phone, and this is a habit that I've created. It started with over here, the chromatic, Mod Retro Chromatic, but what ended up happening was I realized the quick save feature on there doesn't exist. And so with quick save not existing, I found myself being like, okay, I need something that's going to be a little bit more modular, not modular, a little bit more easy to do. And I was using the SP, the emulation device SP, but still there was an element of that which just wasn't inspiring. And so when I was given the opportunity to get a Mod Retro, I keep this in my pocket, my bag, and when I have those like 15 minutes or whatever, I'm standing in line, I'm, you know, just wanting to do something for a few minutes, and instead of taking my phone out and doom scrolling, I pick up the Game Boy, which I call the Game Boy even though it's not Game Boy. I pick up the Game Boy and I start playing Pokemon Emerald, and I just go through the Pokemon Emerald game, and it's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect for what I want to do, and the size there is incredible. And so this has become kind of a tool for me to break the habit of this disgusting device that is intended to ruin your life. I'm just joking. I just really don't like the addiction that my phone has over me. And so this is what I used as a tool for that. And it's helped reorganize and recenter myself, right? I've never been a reader. I do read manga. This is like my new thing that I've done over the past couple of years now. And in reading manga, it's been really, really nice. But still, pulling out a manga and trying to read 4 panels and then put it away, just not perfect. But playing Pokemon Emerald for a few minutes, standing in line. I remember when we were, when it was election time and we were voting, I went to go stand in line to go vote, and I was standing there with my Mod Retro, and so many people were like, is that a Game Boy? I was like, kinda. And I was playing Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. There were multiple people who were like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that game in such a long time. Like, it was so cool, that conversation that was there around it. It was fun to share that moment with people and just have that fun time. While I look around in line, they're all standing there flipping through their phones and stuff. I'm like, maybe just be a little different. Like, I want to be a little different. So I use the Analog Pocket. Shout out to Morgan who sold this to me. Now let's go to, oh geez, it went up. Let's go to my second to first use. And this is where we get into my 2 not 3 situation. This is my Steam Deck. I just recently acquired this, and I use this now more for games that I already have purchased, different titles, as well as games that just don't perform at the level that I would like them to perform on the Nintendo Switch, at least right now. And so games like Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, some of these pixel remaster games, not the pixel remasters, those perform perfectly fine on the Nintendo Switch too, but games that just are struggling, or games that I've acquired over the past year of having, or almost a year of having a PC, and I want to play, I play on my Steam Deck. And so I'm playing games like, I always say that, I think it's called The First Berserker Kazan. I'm playing that on this. This is not available on the Nintendo Switch 2. It's also, I don't have it on the PlayStation 5, and I'm not going to repurchase it. And Steam is the place that I am using the most of my purchasing power, right? When it comes to buying third-party titles. This has become a third-party machine. And some people would say, well, can't the PlayStation be a third-party machine? It very well can, but what I find myself using the PlayStation for is the same thing that someone might use an Xbox for. And it's for their subscription service. And it's for some of the games I have already purchased over the years, because that device allows me access to a good library of games that I might want to play, and it ends up being perfectly fine for me. And so that's the access point. And sometimes I don't use the PlayStation. It's an overglorified Blu-ray player, which I do because I have friends who send me really cool gifts like this, sending me the Star Wars what is it called? The despecialized editions on Blu-ray, as well as animated adventures. I got these as gifts from my friends, and so I need to play this on, of course, a Blu-ray player. And I do still collect some physical media when it comes to movies, because I believe that the quality is better, and we don't subscribe to as many online movie subscription services, because when we sit down to watch movies, we try to have those be intentional moments. And so there is a little bit of a give and take. A lot of it is balance, and that's what it comes down to, is just balancing everything when it comes to all the media consumption and what's best, right? Like, I have a record player that I listen to records and albums, but I still use Spotify because access to music is very challenging, and filling my house with CDs and cassette tapes, though I would love to have that experience again, just isn't realistic and financially not responsible when it comes to managing a bunch of things in general. And so when it comes to the Steam Deck, this is my third-party machine. I'm genuinely using it for most, if not all, third-party things. And when I say third-party, I'm saying third-party in regards to Nintendo. Nintendo is my only device that I have that has first-party exclusivity with no trajectory whatsoever of this ever coming to any other platform. So Mario, Zelda, Metroid, all these things, very, very unlikely that we're going to see any of that appear on a PlayStation, Xbox, PC, anything else, right? Unless you emulate, of course, which I'm coming around to it more and more. I'm not willing to emulate Switch titles or anything like that, because I just don't want to. There's nothing against people who do, whatever. But I just don't want to. I stay away from emulation for the most part because of the UI experience. It's not as exciting for me to do it. And so I don't find that moment feeling fulfilling, right? It just doesn't feel like I'm playing video games. It feels like I'm pretending. And that's a me thing. That's not a you thing. That's not anyone else. It's a me thing. And so I tend to try to stay away from it as a whole. But I am coming around to it. I am indeed coming around to it. There are certain titles I feel like just aren't given a good shake when it comes to how they're presented on Nintendo devices, like Wind Waker. I own Wind Waker on the Wii U, Wind Waker HD. It's an incredible, incredible game. I like it a lot, but I'm not going to plug in my Wii U every 15 minutes to play Wind Waker, since I've never been able to fully play through it. So I am experiencing Wind Waker through Wind Waker HD, which I'm using that on the Steam Deck, and I'm enjoying that a lot more. I definitely am enjoying that a lot more than the Wind Waker that is available to me here on the Nintendo Switch. And even though it's not native, I have been using the GameCube controller, which has been a lot of fun. But genuinely, when it comes down to my balance of everything, I find myself first-party games purchasing on the Nintendo Switch, and there are titles I already own that I'm running through the Nintendo Switch, like my old library. I'm wishing that they, upgrade some more games there. We'll see what happens down the pike. I definitely believe they will, so that's that. But also when it comes to balancing between other devices, it's where are the games I want to play? Nintendo, great. I have the title from first party. It's third party, all right, let's go look at Steam. Let's see if it's going to be on the Steam Deck or playable on the Steam Deck. If not, I do have a PC that I'm able to utilize to play the game there in that way. And then I can stream it to my Steam Deck like a PlayStation Portal. What is on PlayStation Plus? Is it available to me there? Can I just play it there without paying any money for the game, since I already have the yearly subscription over the course of a few years? Sweet, I'll just play it on my PlayStation 5 Pro. I have access to it. I don't need to purchase the game. And then lastly, this right here, the Analog Pocket. Let's just stop using phones for anything other than making phone calls and sending text messages. That's kind of the way that I see it. You do you, man. It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm going to keep running it the way I do because this is how I like it. Let me know what your setup is. I'm very, very interested. If this helped you kind of go around, and if you would like a very, very in-depth, practical comparison between the Switch 2 and the Steam Deck, I'm willing to do it. And the only way I'm going to do it is if this video gets, say, 200 likes. 200 likes and I'll make that video. Sound good? Awesome. Well, as always, play more, be kind, and have a good one. Cheers.